Donald Trump doesn't need an introduction, but the source of his fortune definitely does. We know the towers, the tantrums, the gold-plated everything. But what if I told you the story really starts with a German barber chasing gold in the Yukon, detours through shady housing schemes in Brooklyn, and ends with a private jet worth more than most skyscrapers? He says he built it. His critics say he inherited it. But the truth? It's stranger, messier, and way more explosive than either side wants to admit. So, Donald Trump. You've heard the name more times than you can count. He's been a businessman, a reality show host, a president, and somehow always the headline. Whether you admire him, roll your eyes, or just can't look away, one thing's certain: the man knows how to make noise and how to spend money, a lot of it. But how exactly did the kid from Queens become the gold-trimmed king of Manhattan? Did he really build it all from a small loan of $1 million? Is that private jet actually his? And what's the deal with all the marble floors and gold-plated everything? That's what we're digging into, past the slogans, past the tweets, and straight into the receipts. From inherited millions and eyebrow-raising flips to luxury planes and golf resorts, this isn't just a story about money. It's about how money moves when you're born rich and brand yourself like a celebrity CEO. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you might not see Donald Trump the same way again. At the very least, you'll wonder how someone racks up 6 bankruptcies and still finds time to redesign the inside of a helicopter. Let's rewind the tape. Before Trump Tower, before The Apprentice, before the presidency, there was a man named Friedrich. Long before skyscrapers, press conferences, or gold-plated bathtubs, there was Friedrich Trump. And no, the Trump legacy didn't begin in Manhattan. It began with a sharp-mustached German immigrant chasing opportunity in the lawless frontiers of North America. Friedrich arrived in the US in the late 1800s with nothing. No education, no money, and no plan, except to hustle. He cut hair by day, but his real money came from a string of restaurants and hotels he built out west during the Klondike Gold Rush. The word hotels might be generous here. Most of them were barroom brothels, serving whiskey and women to tired coal miners who were far more interested in instant comfort than actual gold. By the time Friedrich headed back to New York, he had pocketed the modern-day equivalent of $600,000, enough to get into real estate and plant the first seed of the Trump fortune. This wasn't just luck. Friedrich had an eye for opportunity and wasn't shy about working gray areas to get ahead. That instinct to find the angle and take the leap didn't die with him. His son, Fred Trump, would take that seed money and build a real empire, brick by brick. Donald may be the brand, but Fred was the builder. And once you see how much Donald inherited, not just in money but in strategy, you'll understand why that self-made billionaire image he pushes, it's more sales pitch than a story. Before Donald had golden penthouses and reality shows, Fred Trump had something much more profitable: government contracts and a hammer. Fred wasn't flashy. No casinos, no celebrity branding, just real estate done quietly and at a massive scale. He specialized in working-class housing in New York's outer boroughs, Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island. We're talking tens of thousands of modest apartments, many bankrolled by US government subsidies during the post-WTI housing boom. Here's what gets overlooked. Fred got rich by building cheap, with taxpayer money. He mastered the system, finding loopholes, maximizing incentives, and reinvesting profits into new properties. At one point, he even built one of the first supermarkets in America. By the time Donald was blowing out his 8th birthday candle, Fred's empire was already generating about $200,000 a year in Donald's name. That's not a typo. The New York Times later revealed that young Donald was technically a millionaire before he hit double digits. You've probably heard Trump's go-to line, "My father gave me a small loan of $1 million." But that's a bit like calling the Titanic a rowboat. Financial records show that Donald received over $413 million in today's dollars from Fred, through a mix of gifts, bailouts, and low-interest loans. And that's not counting another $140 million in formal financing. Donald didn't build his fortune from scratch. He started with a blueprint and an entire construction crew already in place. Next, we'll see how he took that fortune, left behind the family business, and turned himself into something else entirely: a brand. Donald Trump wasn't built for modest success. Where Fred Trump saw steady money in suburbs and housing subsidies, Donald saw glitz, spotlights, and his name glowing like a Vegas marquee. Armed with millions from his father and an ego big enough to fill a dozen penthouses, he looked past Brooklyn and Queens and aimed straight for Manhattan. Fred thought it was too risky. Donald thought it was the only place big enough to match his ambition. In the late 1970s, he took a decaying relic, the Commodore Hotel, and spent millions turning it into the Grand Hyatt, right next to Grand Central Station. But that was just the opening act. His next move? Trump Tower. A sleek, black glass skyscraper on Fifth Avenue with gold trim, marble everywhere, and a lobby that looked like a Bond villain's living room. Naturally, he claimed the top 3 floors for himself. It was extravagant, it was iconic, but it wasn't exactly profitable. In the 1980s, he rolled the dice in Atlantic City, launching Trump Plaza, Trump Castle, and the Taj Mahal, which he called the 8th wonder of the world. They were overhyped, overbuilt, and quickly drowning in debt. When the economy dipped, his empire teetered. He filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, not once, but 6 times. Still, the image didn't crack. His suits got sharper, his jets got louder, and the Trump name? It stopped being a signature on buildings. It became the product itself. Hotels, steaks, vodka, a so-called university. He wasn't just selling real estate anymore. He was selling the idea of Trump. By the early 2000s, Trump's business empire wasn't exactly booming. His casino ventures were bleeding out, he was juggling lawsuits, and Forbes kept quietly trimming his net worth. But then came his most successful pivot. Not into another building, but onto your television screen. At first, Trump reportedly dismissed the idea of The Apprentice. Reality TV? That was for fading stars and B-list drama, not moguls in tailored suits. But producer Mark Burnett had a vision: make Trump the centerpiece, the mogul, the boss, the man who could turn ambition into millions. And with that,
"You're fired,"
became a global catchphrase. When it premiered in 2004 on NBC, The Apprentice wasn't just a hit. It was a branding goldmine. It reimagined Trump as the embodiment of the American dream, rich, sharp, and in control. Each episode reinforced the idea that he was the ultimate success story, even if his financial history told a different tale. According to his own 2015 financial disclosures, Trump earned over $213 million from the show. That doesn't include all the product placements, licensing spin-offs, and brand deals that followed. The show didn't just pad his bank account, it resurrected his reputation. The Apprentice did for Trump what no skyscraper ever could. It turned him into a household name. No longer just the flashy developer from New York, he became a symbol. To some, a joke. To others, a model of success. And once you've spent a decade playing America's boss on TV, well, stepping into the political arena doesn't seem like such a leap. By 2015, Donald Trump wasn't just a businessman or a reality star. He was a brand, a walking logo, a symbol of excess, success, and spectacle. So, when he descended that golden escalator in Trump Tower to announce his run for president, it didn't feel like politics. It felt like television. At first, few took him seriously. A billionaire throwing his name in the ring? Most thought it was a publicity stunt, something to boost ratings or book sales. But Trump wasn't joking, and neither was his wallet. He promised to self-fund his campaign, saying he didn't need lobbyist dollars or special interests. "I'm rich," he reminded us. "I don't need anyone's money." And to a point, he backed it up. According to campaign finance records, Trump poured $66 million of his own cash into his 2016 run. Not quite the $100 million he liked to brag about, but still a hefty chunk. The rest came from donors, plenty of them. So where did all that money go? Ads, mostly. Digital, TV, social media. Nearly $192 million was spent flooding screens across the country with his name, his voice, and that unmistakable red tie. His second biggest expense? Air travel. Enter Trump Force One, his personal Boeing 757, outfitted with a gold-plated bathroom, leather seats, and a private bedroom. It wasn't just a ride. It was a flying campaign ad. Every landing on the tarmac was a photo op. Every takeoff was a flex. Some said the whole thing was reckless. Others said it was genius. Either way, it worked. Trump didn't just win the presidency, he rewrote the rulebook for how modern campaigns look, sound, and spend. And now that he had the Oval Office, the branding game went even bigger. Most people adapt to the presidency. Trump adapted the presidency to himself. Sure, the White House became his official residence, but he never really stopped being the CEO of Trump Inc. The real estate mogul followed him into the Oval Office, complete with weekend retreats, branded properties, and a revolving door of taxpayer-funded travel. Let's start with Mar-a-Lago, his 20-acre private club in Palm Beach, Florida. Nicknamed the Winter White House, it wasn't just a retreat. It was a Trump-branded palace, gold trim, grand chandeliers, and guests who paid thousands to be in the same zip code as the commander-in-chief. And he visited often. According to NBC Tracking, during his first 719 days in office, Trump spent 218 days at Trump-owned properties, and 166 of those were at golf resorts. Each Mar-a-Lago trip cost U.S. taxpayers an estimated $1 to $3.6 million, depending on how you calculate security, staffing, and logistics. And then there were the Secret Service golf cart rentals. Yes, that's real, totaling over $60,000 in just 1 year. Then came Bedminster, his New Jersey golf club, where strategy meetings sometimes happened a few yards from a sand trap, or Trump Tower, which remained under heavy Secret Service protection even when Trump was no longer staying there. All this added up to one strange reality. While serving as president, Trump's own properties were being paid indirectly by the U.S. government. Critics called it a blatant conflict of interest. Supporters called it savvy. But wherever you land, one thing is clear. Trump blurred the lines between public office and private profit more than any president before him. And it didn't stop at golf courses and hotels. Next, we'll dive into the real core of the Trump empire, the buildings, the branding, and the billion-dollar real estate web that made it all possible. For Donald Trump, buildings aren't just investments. They're monuments, markers of status. Proof that his name doesn't just belong on campaign signs or baseball caps. It belongs on skyline billboards, preferably in 60-foot gold letters. The centerpiece? Trump Tower. The sleek, black glass skyscraper on Manhattan's Fifth Avenue isn't just prime real estate, it's a statement. Trump lived there for a while, worked there, and built his entire empire around it. And inside his penthouse? Think Versailles. If Versailles were designed by someone with a gold obsession and zero restraint. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, frescoed ceilings, and enough gilded trim to blind the Pope. Trump has claimed the triplex is 33,000 square feet. Forbes measured it closer to 11,000. Either way, it's worth a fortune, estimated between $64 and $100 million. But Trump Tower is just the lobby. Across the U.S., his name is plastered on skyscrapers in Chicago, Las Vegas, and Miami, plus golf resorts across Florida, New Jersey, and California. Then there's Seven Springs, a 213-acre estate in New York's Westchester County. Trump bought it for just $7.5 million back in 1995. It's now reportedly worth over $40 million. And that's just domestic. Internationally, the Trump name appears on luxury towers in Istanbul and Manila, and on sprawling golf courses in Scotland, Dubai, and Ireland. But here's the twist. Trump doesn't always own these properties. In many cases, he just licenses his name. Developers pay top dollar for the Trump brand, betting it will raise the property's prestige, even if he had nothing to do with the construction. It's real estate marketing, and marketing as mythology. Because in the Trump playbook, it's not just about square footage, it's about image, flash, legacy, the illusion of luxury, even if the foundation isn't all that solid. Next, we leave the ground and climb aboard the flying side of the Trump lifestyle, a private fleet fit for a billionaire brand. If you thought gold toilets were a lot, wait until you see the sky-high version of Trump's brand. Because when Donald Trump takes flight, he doesn't just travel, he performs. The showpiece? A Boeing 757, fondly nicknamed Trump Force One. It's not just a private jet, it's a full-blown flying palace. Purchased around 2010 for a reported $100 million, the aircraft was gutted and remade in full Trump fashion. Plush leather seating, a private bedroom, a dining area, guest suites, and yes, an actual 24-karat gold-plated sink. Powered by twin Rolls-Royce engines, the plane can fly over 500 miles per hour and fit more than 200 passengers. But for Trump, it's more like a sky lounge than an airliner. Nearly every surface gleams. Even the seatbelts are customized. The pillows? Monogrammed? The vibe? Full billionaire theater. And that's just the flagship. Trump also owns a Cessna Citation X, a smaller, sleeker jet valued at around $15 million, ideal for short hops or campaign trail blitzes. Then there are the Sikorsky helicopters, reportedly at least 3 in his fleet. One of them? He spent $750,000 having renowned designer Eric Roth renovate the interior. Gold finishes, leather seats, Trump family crest painted on the woodwork. This wasn't about getting somewhere fast, it was about arriving like royalty. Once he became president, of course, he had to trade his private toys for Air Force One. But you can bet he missed the branding. The moment he left office, Trump Force One was taken out of storage and overhauled, fully prepped for rallies, headlines, and whatever's next. Because for Donald Trump, planes aren't just vehicles. They're props in the ongoing show. symbols of scale, success, and style. And if you think he's extra, wait till you meet his kids. If Donald Trump lives like a billionaire showman, his daughters Ivanka and Tiffany have taken that script and added their own spin, equal parts fashion icon, society fixture, and luxury brand in human form. Let's start with Ivanka, the polished powerhouse who glided from fashion runways to corporate boardrooms to the West Wing. But don't let the White House title fool you. Her world is still drenched in high-end everything. She and her husband, Jared Kushner, have amassed an art collection worth around $25 million, featuring contemporary heavyweights like Cy Twombly and Joe Bradley. Their Washington, D.C. rental? A nearly 7,000 square foot, 6-bedroom home in Kalorama. Cost? $15,000 a month. Why rent instead of buy? When you're that rich, it's about location and optics. Ivanka's wardrobe is a constant headline. At the G20 summit, she reportedly wore nearly $12,000 worth of designer outfits over just a few days. Valentino, Burberry, Carolina Herrera. She even made waves for sporting a $10,800 diamond bracelet during a 60 Minutes interview, then plugging it through her own brand. Fashion and marketing? That's the Trump DNA. Then there's Tiffany, the younger, quieter half-sister, often dubbed the Forgotten Trump. But don't let the nickname fool you. She's carved out her own niche in the world of socialites and luxury getaways. Though not as tight with her dad, Tiffany reportedly holds a $10 million net worth of her own, and she knows how to use it. She's vacationed in Phuket, Greece, Cannes, and the Dominican Republic, flying first class and checking into 5-star hotels like Square 9 in Belgrade, where top rooms go for $1,400 a night. Her husband? A wealthy heir from Lebanon. Together, they're Instagram's answer to Gatsby. Between the designer wardrobes, elite education, and security details, yep, taxpayers covered a chunk of that, the Trump daughters live every bit as extravagantly as their father. And that's the thing. Trump's wealth isn't just money. It's a legacy, a lifestyle, a way of moving through the world with swagger, sparkle, and a checkbook that never blinks. Admire it or roll your eyes, but you can't say it's boring. And hey, if you've made it this far, chances are at least something in Trump's billionaire life made your jaw drop. Was it the gold-plated sinks? The private jet relaunch? The Secret Service golf carts? Whatever it was, one thing's clear. When you live at this level, money doesn't just move, it performs. If you liked this deep dive into the outrageous world of wealth and image, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell, because this is just the beginning. We've got more jaw-dropping stories from the richest people on the planet, and the wild ways they burn through billions. Got something to say? Drop it in the comments. And tell us, if $1 billion landed in your lap today, what would you do first? Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.